Sheetal ma'am, we are live now. We can start. Thanks.
With my sincere pranams offered to Guruji and a soulful namaste to all, I welcome each one of you to this special evening. Indeed, it's a special day today, 21st June. As per the Gregorian calendar, it is the 172nd day of this year, meaning 193 days more to go for 2022. Well, there's something more to it. It is summer solstice for all of us living in the Northern Hemisphere. Yes, the longest day of the year. But we are referring to something beyond that. Today is International Yoga Day. And as we all know, Yog is derived from the Sanskrit word yug, that means union of individual consciousness with universal consciousness, harmony between mind and body, man and nature. And this year's theme is Yoga for Humanity. And as Guruji Shri Nandkishore Tiwari says, nations and religions both are for humans. Human consciousness is raring to evolve beyond both. With that profound quote, I, Sheetal Shah, on behalf of Darpan Foundation, would like to welcome you all to our signature series Upanishad with Guruji Shri Nandkishore Tiwari, Propounder, Sahaj Smriti Yoga System of Self-Realisation, and our host, Professor Madhav Das Nalapat, UNESCO Chair for Promotion of Culture of Peace and Nonviolence, also the Editorial Director of the Sunday Guardian and ITV Network. Darpan Foundation's Upanishad series is a universal initiative to revive the Upanishadic spirit, where there is a confluence of scientifically seeking minds and religiously seeking hearts, where both of these merge in complete harmony. It's a matter of pleasure and pride to share about the Foundation's journey, its turning points, and milestones created so far. Guruji established Universal Forum for Human Dignity in the year 2002 and founded Darpan Sahaj Smriti Yoga Ashram at Oregon in 2018. Guruji Shri Nandkishore Tiwari propounded Sahaj Smriti Yoga System of Self-Realisation along with Sahaj Smriti Kriya, an absolute effortless method to explore unexplored dimensions of one's existence. This is a path easy to follow along with a busy family life. Under Guruji's guidance, Darpan Foundation is consistently working in areas of sustainable living, education, conservation of nature, health, sanitation, and enabling senior citizens to meaningfully contribute to society. Through the various social transformation projects, we have touched more than 5,350 students, 26 schools, and 42 villages. On 26 March 2022, Guruji inaugurated Tarangini, that is a multipurpose hall, and Shorpanika, that is a Dhyan Mandap at Darpan Ashram. These are meant to serve as hubs for societal transformation. Following that, in mid-April, Darpan Foundation, in association with Life Ray India, our long-standing patron, inaugurated its first library at Dodakanali Government School, stocked with close to 750 books, thoughtfully curated by Darpan's team. The library intends to introduce students to the magical world of book reading and storytelling. The library includes books across various genres and contains books in Kannada, English, and Hindi. Now, coming to my favorite concept, learn, earn, and return. We have gone through the mandatory phase of learning and earning. Most of us who have transcended into the ultimate phase of return can find meaning and purpose in contributing to the society. And best way to do is volunteering. It is indeed a magical experience and a humbling one too. For those of you who want to experience this magic of volunteering, make sure to connect with us. And now, it gives me immense pleasure to introduce the esteemed host for today's Upanishad series, Professor Madhav Das Nalapat. Belonging to a well-known literary family, he has so much in terms of his experience and expertise. His mother, Kamala Das, is a well-known Malayalam writer. Professor Madhav Das Nalapat is the Director of Geopolitics and International Relations and UNESCO Peace Chair at Manipal University, India. He is also the Vice Chair of Manipal University's Advanced Research Group. He is also the Editorial Director of the Sunday Guardian and ITV Network India. He has been the editor of Times of India and Mathrubhumi. Professor Nalapat is a respected authority in the field of geopolitics. He writes on international affairs. And today's topic for Upanishad series is Nations and Religions. And we could not have a more relevant personality to discuss about this. Indeed, it's a delightful feeling to have Professor Madhav Nalapat with us. Welcome, sir. Before I hand over the space to our distinguished host and respected Guruji, would like to inform that we are sharing a social media links and request all to visit our page, get to know about the continuous work we have been doing. And if you like what you see, don't forget to press the like button, share and subscribe. Today's topic is nations and religions. And without further ado, let us commence the Upanishad. I request the audience to disable the video and mute the audio right away so that we can listen to this Upanishad without interruptions. May I now request Guruji to kindly present the keynote, after which our host will commence the Upanishad interaction. Thank you so much.
Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhate girim yat krapatamaham vande paramanandam madhavam nahi tadvavitah rashtram yatra ramo na bhupatihi nahi tadbhavita rashtram yat ramo na bhupati tadvanam bhavitah rashtram yat ramo nivatsyasi asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya amaham Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Today is a wonderful day. Wonderful because more than 176 countries, as were in the beginning, who took our case with them for declaring the International Yoga Day at United Nations at the proposal of our country. Many more have joined because only few were left. So in that sense, it is wonderful that for some cause, whole humanity has come together. And when we have this, from what if we take the case of recorded history only, then coming from tribal gatherings to small kingdoms to nation states to religious congregations and religious identities, religious groupings, all these we have been trying to transcend and reach to this stage where we want to be known as earthlings. We want to share everyone's concern. This has been the known history, a recorded history. So today, when we have such an eminent host, Madhavji, who understands geopolitics so well, then I am in safe hands wherever he is guiding, and we will take the concern. And that is how this Upanishad will move. With these words, I hand it over to Madhavji. He will guide us through this Upanishad.
Thank you, Guruji. And I am certainly blessed to have the benefit of this interaction and your wisdom on issues that perplex me and that perplex so many of us. The subject that has been given is nation and religion. Nation is an exclusive concept, but religion is supposed to help us in understanding the divine. And divinity is not exclusive. Divinity is universal. So, Guruji, allow me to ask you, something that is universal, that is divinity, something in which each of us has an equal share, if I may say so, or an equal claim. How is it that in the name of that, there is so much of, if I may say so, so much of conflict, so much of tension, so much of division in this world? And how is it that so much of that has been justified on the grounds of religion, which is supposed to be a stepping stone to divinity, which is universal, and whose the values of which are extremely, if I may say so, accommodative, peace-loving, values of great generosity. So how is this contradiction between the, if I may say so, the philosophy of religion and the practice of religion?
As Madhavji has very clearly delineated that what are the common man's concern, because when we speak in high-flying language, words which most of the people do not understand Genesis, from where a certain word has come, how the journey of that word has been, they get perplexed that what is this happening? And that is how the whole world feels in a turmoil, because there is no clarity. So as he rightly pointed it out, that it is the thing of heart. Spirituality, religion, dharma, these are different words, and they have a context and they have a journey from where they started. So when we confuse one for another, then it becomes difficult. But this interaction has to happen. It is inevitable that this kind of interaction between the dialogue will happen, but through dialogue, when we do not forget the essential thing, then we come to certain consensus, and that is how the wisdom goes forward. For example, today only we are saying it is Antarrashtriya Yog Divas, if we say in our Indic languages. But when we say it in English, we say International Day of Yoga. So nation and Rashtra, they become interchangeable, which is not the case. Rashtra is entirely different concept, and nation is entirely different concept. But we make sense of it as a common man, that we are referring to something. But when this something, people become adamant that nation means Rashtra only, then it becomes difficult. So every word, it is the role of those people whom we trust, whom we consider wise. They stay open and they give clarity. Every time when this journey is happening, everything is evolving. Human consciousness is evolving. Then meanings are also changing in new context. So some things which was so old, and we took it as a custom and we want to perform it that old way only, then it becomes conflicting. Then people find it very difficult what is truth and what is superfluous around it. Therefore, every time it is duty of enlightened beings or people who are learned in the society, their role it is to keep defining in a contemporary context every word, so that people get clarity. How it came to happen? Because if we say it, we go it spiritual way. That's why I keep spirituality away from religion, even from dharma and madhab. From every word, we keep it different. Yes, all are meant for that, but so much superfluity has crept in. Why this has crept in? Because it is the way of heart, which is given to everyone. Everybody wants, this is inbuilt in human being. Seeking is inbuilt. This is like people have this jijibisha, that thirst for living. More than that, they have thirst for knowing. Why? Because living is eternal in spiritual terms. So the life span being limited, people want to grasp to that eternal life. That is how it is translated as seeking. It is living only, but it is eternal living. But they don't know the way. How can I become eternal in this body which is not eternal, which is ephemeral, which is going to last for only few, say, years, if we count it that way? Then how can I be eternal? So that becomes seeking. And when we could not guide, we could not reach to the right person, or we could not get that guidance clear, which makes ourselves the evidence of that seeking, of that, when we become ourselves the evidence of the divinity which Madhavji is talking about, then such things will not be there. So he gave another clue also. He says values, he referred the term. So ultimately, these are the values, higher values, which we call here Sanatan values. Because as I said in the beginning of this book, Mrityorma Amritam Gamay, that we have realized that here this tradition has been there, that our saints have realized all the time that they are how they are eternal. And they are capable of imparting that wisdom to others who are worthy of it. So they also realize in this ephemeral body, the eternal being. So then there is no confusion, and that is driven by values, because then you have those values: love, compassion, caring for others. So when anything is supported by those values, then there will be no such consternation. There will be no such wandering aimlessly. There will be clarity. When without having love, if I say I love you, it will not make any sense. But you may have seen, if we have a loving family, and husband and wife, very many times they may have listened when some wife says, I hate you, but what she means is, I love you so much that I cannot express in words. Or if you have not seen in family, at least in movies, you may have seen, all of us, that such instances are created. So what I'm trying to say, if the value is within, that emotional base is behind, that magnanimity is behind, that care and concern is behind, then words start making clear sense. So then we will not be lost.
That's a very interesting and wonderful take on the situation. But then let me then go on to a development of this. Now you know that, for example, the job of a teacher is to impart to the student what the wisdom that and the skill that the teacher has got. I mean, I am now in Gurugram, Guru Dronacharya. He imparted his skills to his pupils, and that is the point. Now, as you correctly said, we have in India a lot of that kind of evidence is there. In some other countries, it is also there. We have gurus who have this kind of wisdom, who have this kind of realization of the self. But somehow, in this particular case, the teaching is not going very far beyond the guru. Now, in the case of mathematics, for example, the teaching of mathematics goes very far. Engineering, medicine, geopolitics, it goes very far. I mean, I'm happy that our department has got so many students, and they're all becoming even better at geopolitics than I would say their teachers, including myself. But then, Guruji, you come face to face with this whole concept of, as human beings, what is our core personality? And you have Charles Darwin saying it is survival of the fittest. What he means is survival of the cruelest, survival of the most ruthless. And then what happens is that you have conflict and war and all these other things taking place. So And then as you correctly said, nation and Rashtra, a universal concept and a non-universal concept. Sanatan Dharma, a universal faith. Every path leads to the realization of divine. So why, Guruji, is it that what you know yourself, and I'm sure you're teaching to many lucky individuals who follow your teaching, why is this not being disseminated, this kind of wisdom, across the world? And why is it that religions are basically being utilized for conflict, and the core concepts of religion, which relate to divinity and which therefore accept the oneness of humanity, they are put aside in favor of superficial concepts which basically stress differences, and other issues which create problems, which generate feelings of violence. Why is this happening in the world today?
Yes, very relevant and very burning question, because it is here and now that we are seeing instances of it. In terms of countries, we are unfortunately witness to war here and now. And we are seeing within country also things happening across all the countries. So if to put it in a very nutshell, you see, spirituality is essentiality, reaching to the essence, which we call it tattva jnana, reaching to that. So if you call any religion or madhab, ultimately there also the motto is same. They also want to reach to the essence only. But what happened to other terms you use? In that context, you named Darwin. So the two terms are what I'm saying, compulsion and necessity. These are two opposite terms. What is our journey? Our journey as an evolved being towards evolution, self-evolution, self-realization is from compulsions to necessities. We keep overcoming compulsions and keep following necessities. What is a necessity? And that is how it leads to essentiality. Then we realize our essence, who we really are. That is called humanity. That is called humanity to divinity. All these things, when we evolve, then only. Now it doesn't matter for a beginner whether we call it human values or divine values or civic values even. They are same in the beginning. Only when your sadhana refines, then only you understand how one term is different from another. So we are even lacking in the basic civic sense. If two people sitting in a forum, maybe television or anywhere, and shouting in the name of religion, then forget about the religion. They are forgetting civic values. First, they need to be civilians, that they could talk to each other meekly, could understand each other in how they see themselves. Because if you want to really make a dialogue with someone, you have to see that person through that one's eyes, not your eyes. Then only you can make the point. So spirituality is such that what you have seen inside, that only you are going to replicate outside. And materiality, so to say, if I have to say what is outside, that is materiality. But this outside inside is only one thing. As we say, the matter is refined form of spirit. That is how the spirit is. So they are not different. But because there is a journey, so we have to make certain steps. That's how we walk and move towards the essential. So this has come because of that we could not make it clear. We could not see that, yes, we could not come to the consensus. So this is the work of the enlightened ones in the society across institutions, that they should make it relevant. If some vocabulary has become too old, for instance, we are speaking in English. We both are Indians, but we are speaking in English because this is the language which is connecting you internationally and even within your country. So even if we don't like, we have to speak. That way you can say this is a compulsion. But we should be always aware that we have to move towards, and this is necessity. What is necessary for our well-being? So we will keep track of our own mother tongue. We will keep track of the language which we consider according to our individual journey, that this is the language of knowledge. So we follow that. But gradually only we can move from consensus, from compulsion to necessities. So when we start addressing more of necessities and less of compulsions, then we keep moving towards freedom or liberation. So this has to do a lot with the education. Education is a very key factor which people are not taking in with that much consideration. Because anything, if you want to become available to all, it is only through education. Education of heart, education of mind. But for the beginner, it is the role of the experts of every field to come together, break their heads, and put a curriculum which they consider is good for all earthlings of tomorrow or today. So we have to do that. And we have gone wrong because we created small ghettos in the names of religions, or what you call ideologies. Ultimately, what is the aim? If you ask any ideologue who is running any kind of vada, if you ask him honestly, what are you doing it for? And definitely the answer is welfare of all. Then where from these all conflicts are coming? Because you are not seeing from where it should be seen. And seeing is possible only in spirituality. Then it percolates down to other disciplines. So we have to see from such a point from where everything may be seen. Everything has its place, and everything has its place non-violently. Everything is accommodated. That vision alone can be called vision, in which whatever comes, somebody throws stones, those are also accommodated. Somebody is cursing you, accommodated. Somebody is praising you, accommodated. Everything, but you do not waver from your path. As we say in Sanskrit, nindati niti nipura yadiva istavantu lakshmi samavasatu vishatu gacchati va ytheshtam nyayat patha pravachalanti padam na dhira. That means whatever is happening to you, somebody praising, saying good or bad things about you, if you are on the path of justice, then you are neither influenced by anything for you nor against you. So such kinds of personalities needs to be created. And that is what we call development of the personality, spiritual evolution. Atma Srajan, what we call Atmanam Srajamaham, Krishna said. It is nothing else. So it has to be broken down in today's language, what people understand. If you keep doing Atma Paramatma, people don't understand anything. So you have to come to at that level, what do you understand? From there, you to hold their hand that this is how it is. It is very simple. This is how you do this one step, you walk. Next step, you will see such things. Then you become more firm that yes, this is leading me somewhere. So the role of a teacher or a knower is to empower everyone, not to make them powerless. It is to empower them. So we have to play our role very diligently, that everybody feels that we are there to empower them. We are not there to dominate them. That is how we say, let us move together. That is our wisdom.
Well, I can only say that you're looking at things from the high mountain, so to speak. And when you look at things from the bottom of the mountain, things look different. And from the high mountain, things look very different. And as you correctly said, it's very important to ensure that more and more people are enabled to climb that mountain of consciousness, knowledge, etc. And so that they can also look upon the world through the high mountain. The way, for example, you're looking at the world. I mean, Guruji, you discussed about the English language. Now, I have been an unapologetic believer that we have to, that you have this Churchillian concept of an Anglosphere, English-speaking countries. And that is based on race, on blood, on DNA. Whereas, and there's a paper of mine, it's called the 21st Century Anglosphere, which can easily be accessed. in which I've argued it's not the blood of the body, it's the blood of the mind. So from that point of view, you have more than 300 million people in India who speak or understand some form of English. English is a very flexible language. And why I regard English as important and why I frankly salute the governments of UP and Uttarakhand, if I'm not mistaken, who have ensured that the teaching of English is spread and disseminated in a way that we have not seen in post-1947. I mean, Jawaharlal Nehru knew English very well, but somehow he made it very difficult for someone who did not have the money to go to an English language school to learn the language. I don't know why. But the reality is about 70% of human knowledge is there in the English language. That is larger by far than any other store of the totality of human language in any language. Now, Sanskrit, for example, millennia past had that privilege of having a huge repository. Almost so much of human knowledge was in Sanskrit. Today, it has come to English. Tomorrow, it may go back to Sanskrit. But the reality is that is why, in my case, for example, when you look out and you see poverty and you see people who are suffering and you want to see this removed, well, this language and the unlocking of so many treasures of knowledge that knowledge of this language gives is important in that. So what I want to say, Guruji, is that I really completely and totally accept what you're saying about language, about communication, and so much of war, so much of conflict, whether between oneself and oneself or between oneself and others, countries, is because of miscommunication. Now, for Russia, Ukraine is absolutely indispensable to its security. To the Western world, it's not so. And so expansion of NATO was not really threatening in their eyes. But you have to look at it with the mind of a Russian. You have to look at Indian things from the mind of an Indian, Chinese things from the mind of a Chinese. Otherwise, mistakes are made. And I think China is making a lot of mistakes vis-a-vis India and many other countries by looking at it with their mind instead of our and their and other minds. But this is the whole tragedy that we, as you correctly said, we look upon things through our constructs, our minds, and our way of understanding a situation, and not the other way. And I want to ask you, Guruji, it's still there, very much there. I mean, quite frankly, gurus like you are rare. They're outliers. You are catalytic factors, but there are not too many catalysts in the world that, at least in my case, as someone who's trained in applied geopolitics, has been able to witness.
So this is our tradition. When we say where from we are looking, when we say single word, we use is Sanatan or eternity. That we have realized that we are eternal being. That is the only thing. So wherever we are trying to say, impart it through self-inquiry, through certain methods, that you follow this in your life and see the result. And don't believe me, trust me. Because believing means you have stopped growing. Trusting means I am taking you for your word, but I will experiment. If it is found true, I will follow further. So there is a living person and we do things. If you walk 2 steps, then the 3rd step will be like this. Then you find it is like this. And then you go on, then you become on your own, because that has become your own journey then. So this has been the single factor that we say that we found ourselves eternal being. And once this downs upon, then your fear goes. Once the fear goes, knowledge comes. So long as there is fear, you can gather n number of information from n number of books. What will happen? That is what happening to the religions, as you mentioned, and to other parts, because we have gathered informations. their information are gathered like, then it becomes a material subject. It's no more spirituality. Spirituality is what you have become by following that, by experimenting with it. What kind of person you have become. You came here for transformation. You came to know who and how you really are. So when this is followed, then only you evolve into a different person. So that alone is the, you see, domain of spirituality, that letting it experience that you are eternal being. Then there is your expansion. Once you experience your immortality, you know, nobody can harm you, then the fear of survival goes first thing, which is so much creating trouble in the world. And all so many things people want to do. Somebody wants to follow their mother tongue, say Kannada, Tamil, Telugu, they can't follow because they are seeing it is only through English that they can get a job. So survival. So they are compulsorily they have to do that. And after some time, if you are using something for long, you become accustomed to it. You say, what is the harm? No, harm is not at that level. Harm is at the deeper level. Because your seeking stops. So that is what happening with maximum people. And by the time span of life is over. So these things one has to consider, that what is their priority in life. And that is where the role of the wisdom or vivek, you say, come into play. Because this world is like, as you say, no, it is maya in a way. That it very gradually it slips from your mind. Until you know it's a whole, see how it really is. As I say in Sahaj Smriti, we say that you should look at yourself at 4 levels, that you are a body, you are a mind, you are a self, and you are a soul. So language at every level changes. Krishna also said this in idam sariram konte kshetramiti avidhiyate, that this body should be considered as field. But because he spoke in a language at that time and he had a worthy disciple in front of him, so the communication was very sharp and very short. So same way we have to evolve and see how then only we can sustain our priorities. Until we are empowered to that extent, that what we really want to follow, we are not scared to follow. There is no fear of survival that can cow us down to follow the truth. Then Satyam Param Dhimahi, then we say. So such are the things that first we have to have our values at the right place. And I say n number of words, if I want, so I say education, education, and education with right content. It begins in the family and it keeps going whole life. So if right education is given, and then such things will not be there. They'll at least minimize, they will be minimized. And I'm very hopeful because now today we are looking 177 countries, nations come together for the yoga. It's a wonder. I see it as a wonder. When was such a time? People were fighting for small things. Now they have come. Now we want to evolve. So there is a rearing in the human consciousness to evolve. Only thing is that how leadership articulates this and takes it forward.
Absolutely. I think you're perfectly right. And as you correctly said, it's not a question of excluding anything. It's a question of, as you correctly said, not just believing, but understanding. And that is so important, this complete, this complete confidence that you don't need to exclude anything. And I think that is extremely important. Now, for example, we are talking of, let's say, computers, online systems, online education. Now, thanks to COVID, it pushed the whole process along. Hybrid is going to be the norm in the future. And finally, possibly with the improvement of communication systems, I mean, it's going to be, remote is going to be what physical is today. But in that situation, we have to make sure that there is no exclusion. For example, in schools, when you have a hybrid situation and you have students who are not able to afford online education. Either they can't buy laptops or they can't buy smartphones. Well, then you have a problem. Some of the brightest students in a school may be those who are not able to afford these items. So over 2 years or so, you have seen these students have suffered a handicap. So as you very correctly said and used that word multiple times, empowerment. The point is to empower, and empower in the way that, as you also said, universality. Empower without exclusion. And I think, for example, we have a phrase, popularized by our Prime Minister, Sabke Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas, is that Sabka is so important. And I think that is something that we need to really work on at your sublime level and at much less sublime level of us academics as well as policymakers. But I want to come to an issue, Guruji, which you have answered so many of my questions. So I'm just clarifying and saying that I agree with you on universality, empowerment. And that is, ignoring a reality does not mean ensuring that reality does not harm you anymore, or does not stop healing from taking place. And maybe I'm wrong, Guruji, because in this, but I've been having looked through our history, having looked through so many details, having looked through multiple governments that have taken place after 1947. Sometimes I have a feeling that almost unconsciously, a decision was taken by the higher levels of authority. Let's forget that partition took place. And what was partition based on? It was based on the two concepts that are the genesis of this particular talk: nation and religion. And one group said that you cannot have religion, linked to nation. Nation has nothing to do with religion. And the other group said, no, it has everything to do with religion. It was exclusivist. And unfortunately, the subcontinent was partitioned. So sometimes, if you run away from understanding a problem, sometimes you run away from solutions as well. And again, Guruji, you must pardon me for speaking in a frank manner. I'm an academic. I'm not a policymaker. I have nothing to do with government. So I can speak in a slightly free way. And my university promotes that kind of freedom, both in students and the academic staff, Manipal University.
Yes.
Take, for example, 1 billion people who are Hindus. Hindus are not perfect. And no, Christians are not perfect. Muslims are not perfect. Nobody, is perfect. But the three holy sites of the Hindus are Kashi, Mathura, and Ayodhya. For many decades, I have been saying that there is a wound in the psyche caused by partition. And you cannot treat that wound by ignoring the reality of what took place. And one way, in my view, of that healing is for these three holy sites to be restored to where they were pre-Aurangzeb, where they were during the time of Emperor Jahangir, where they were during the time of Emperor Shah Jahan. And I'd like to say, I'm a completely secular person. I do not in any way believe that religion should be used to divide. And I'm proud to say that, in our family, we have two foster brothers who are Muslim. My own mother converted to Islam, and she got full support from me, from my wife, from most of the family. So I don't believe that religion is a divisive force at all. As the religion is, as you conceive, as a universal path to the divine. But the point is, these three holy sites, I have long felt that unless they are brought to the pre-Aurangzeb situation, that wound of partition will continue. And if that wound continues, then I would say, willy-nilly, a subliminal tension will be there. And subliminal tensions, as you very well know, Guruji, something takes it to the surface and then everything gets topsy-turvy. So if you don't mind, Guruji, I would like to say that in my view, there have been certain historical wounds that have been created by partition. And we need to, our historians, everybody else, they ignore that wound and they pretend as though there's nothing. It's all healthy skin. And as a consequence, we neglect the remedies that are necessary for healing. And I do believe, as a secular Indian citizen who believes in a multi-faith country and who believes in the equality of faiths, that that healing process caused by the wound of partition must be addressed for the future stability of the country. Again, I know that this is not a philosophical or a cosmic question. I'm sorry, but I am in that very low level of analysis and thinking, very different from yours. But may I just toss this to you?
Yes. Now, being brave is necessary for a teacher. Howsoever difficult the topic may be, if they do not articulate it, how are their children going to take their position or understand that well? So you are very well doing your duty. The issue is, I have pondered over it. It is not that because spirituality doesn't make you coward, it makes you brave. It begins, even the Gita begins with that only. Karpanya dosho apahat swabhava. That means I am fallen from my swabhava, karpan, because of this timidness. So please correct me so that I again become brave and do what needs to be done. So it is not running away from issues, but I see it more of, this is also true. What you have said about history, history is taught to, this should be taught to learn what we should not do. Because what we should do, that is in the present. We will take a step according to the present circumstances. What we should not do, that is learned from the history. That is what the history is for. So now I see this. Yes, there are wounds, definitely. So what we should not give wounds again. So when, if we say this is more of a civic issue. Suppose in your house you have 4 rooms. One of your tender daughter or sister or mother, somebody, please for some time, this I need one exclusive room. Is she asking so much? If you are concerned and care, you will say, yeah, you can have it. Then she will be very happy. So I see it more of a civilians issue, that are we not that much civic? We are talking in terms of higher realization, spiritual realization, but we have not learned basic civility, that how to nurse others' wounds, which history has given. Then only there's otherness is demolished. Otherwise, in divinity, where is the otherness? In Sahaj Smriti, we say, this tagline goes, that see yourself, know yourself as divine and consider other. Means know thyself as divine and see other as divine. Either we are one or none. So we say other is the divine, not we. Knowing we have given to ourselves, that we have to know ourselves, but other we consider divine. So assume other divine is the motto, know thyself. So when you consider other divine, that means you are not that much concerned that this otherness is not created. So that whosoever is saying that because of this happened, they have to make a call so that they become us. Because spirituality begins with usness. It is never I and you. It is always us, we. So spirituality, talking of spirituality becomes little laughable when we cannot address the issues which are like family matters. What are we as a country? What are we as a Rashtra? We are a family where we talk of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam in this land, then how to take care of one another in a family. Way, care and concern, feeling the other and do the thing. So what you are saying is correct. But how to do it, that wise people should consider well, so that again wounds are not created. That is how I see the solution to it.
You're quite right. And, healing is not creating a fresh wound. Healing is healing the existing wound. And you're quite right about that. As you correctly, I can divine from your thinking that you agree that human beings are on a horizontal plane. That is, nobody is superior or nobody is inferior to the other. It's not on a vertical plane where you've got superior beings, inferior beings, middle beings. That doesn't make any sense actually, because every human being has some strengths and some weaknesses. Some time ago, long back, I wrote a paper for Bar-Ilan University in Israel, and I think that paper is still there, about a horizontal view of society. So what you're articulating, Guruji, is the wisdom, frankly, which I'm sure has been there in you for a very long time, and in our teachings, in the teachings of our ancients. That's perfectly right. But I again want to say, Guruji, one more thing. This whole concept of a vertical view of society, a vertical view of history. For example, there are people who say that, okay, we've got a history of 5,000 years. Fine. It is the last 200 years that's important. Or the last 600 years, that is important. Or some other people say, no, it's the last 500 years that is important. Whereas in reality, as has been clear, in your own thinking, the entire history is one thread, is one entirety. So how do we avoid this exclusionary ideas? And how do we avoid talking in terms of superior, inferior, and how do we see the superior in us by seeing the superior in others? As I understand, I think that is a very important teaching that you have been developing.
So in other words, you have said how to transcend nations and religions and become one as earthlings. That is the purport I see of your articulation. Yes, this is what. So we say it is only through education, compassion, those values which we call Indic values, eternal values, we need to uphold those values. And it is not a compulsion. Through a spiritual process, you come to know, you come to realize that is what you are here for. Your best welfare lay in doing that. When we call it Paramarth, which means there is a problem in language also, Madhavji. This is a matter of semantics, more of translating one from another language. So meanings change. Here when we say Paramarth, it has so many meanings. Two meanings are very clear. Param Dhan Arth means ultimate meaning of any word. What is the ultimate meaning? In that meaning only we will practice it, uphold it. That is how the word Paramarth comes. So we say we are here for Paramarth. We are for that ultimate exercise of ourselves, that how we should invest ourselves, this limited span of being human. It is the divine consciousness which is going through a human journey for a very short period. In this short period, there are so many valuable things to be upholded that we should have no time to such things which we are upholding, unfortunately, because that clarity is not there. So we have to go through a spiritual process and evolve. And then only this is possible. So some people, we have to think and sit and all educators of the world, I say today, because the communication. So I again say, see, English language, because it is connecting all. So you utilize it for as a tool now. Best warrior in the game is the one who utilize whatever weapon comes to his hand for the cause. So you use that language to communicate the whole world your own ideas. What are eternal ideas? What are eternal values? So that people reach to that, because we have to trust inherent divinity of human being. I am seeing a world coming which will be only of the people who are evolved in their consciousness. Now, suppose, I'm just giving a very common example. You belong to X religion and you consider me belonging to Y religion. Now I have no right to comment on your religion because you consider me outsider. You don't consider me insider. So it becomes beyond my dignity to comment your religion. But as a human being, shouldn't we both be open to listen to one another? Should you not be seeing your image in mirror called me, or should I not be seeing my image in mirror called you? Then only clear picture will be there. So that kind of openness can happen only through evolution in consciousness. Then only the fair comment will be accepted across these religious and national boundaries. And that is the new humanity I am seeing coming. Because new generation, they want to follow the essence. Because who are new generation? We are ourselves coming time and again in more evolved form. So in spirituality, we call the child the father of man in English, as we say, but here say Bando Bala Roop Sui Rama. That Rama in the form of child. So we are seeing that child is more evolved. Child is more far-sighted than the old people. They have experience, but far-sightedness, compassion, I will stick to the word far-sightedness. Children are very far-sighted. If we look them colorlessly, if we have become capable of seeing, that is why we say when people evolve, they become childlike, because now they again cannot become child. So they say become childlike, innocent, they start seeing. So we have to work towards that society. We can use any, see, language is also a weapon, as a technology. So we use it, which is available for, see, for a small country like UK. It could spread its language all across the globe. Then you were such a big country, such a rich language. Even now, the number of manuscripts in Sanskrit go far beyond the manuscripts in any other language. So literature is just so vast. And this is a literature how to live. It is all about humanity, how to live a better life, how to live evolve, which is very much needed today. Look at the circumstances we are into. Planet is facing such a crisis because environment is causing so much trouble. Then your inner is getting turmoil. You can't keep your discernment clear. How will you keep that until you are at peace? So first you have to make yourself in a position where you are at peace. That's why I say in spirituality means what you can see inside, that only you are going to replicate outside. And materiality means whatever is outside, when you come to contact with it, it wants to exercise its influence on you, and that becomes compulsion. So we have to overcome the compulsions to the extent we can, and we have to move towards necessities, that what is necessary to address. And that is how we reach towards essence, Tattva Gyan. And Tattva Gyan is the property of Dhi, Tattva Gyanam Dhiva. So that is how our wisdom evolves. And fair comment is accepted. So I hope that we are reaching towards that universality where our fair comment will be accepted beyond nations and beyond religious identities. Both.
Guruji, that's wonderful. And I just had to confine myself to one more question before Q&A. Otherwise, so we are so I just want to say that you're perfectly right about what you're saying. And take, for example, yoga. I mean, I'm sorry to say that I don't practice yoga, although I know it's a wonderful system. And take, for example, vegetarianism. I am a vegetarian, a lifelong vegetarian. But, so many people are practicing it now. Now, the reality is there is so much, even in the Upanishads, actually. When I was very young, my great-granduncle, who was a philosopher, he had a book of the Upanishads in Sanskrit and English. And of course, it was a wonderful, I couldn't understand a lot of it. And I've been trying to understand it ever since. I can't say I've really gone very far at that. But my point is the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, these are guides to lifestyle, guides to behavior, guides to thinking that could be valuable for anybody. And yet, because we have tagged it with the religious tag, it is excluded from curricula. It is some people just will not, read it because they say it's a religious thing. So this is the tragedy, because as you correctly said, you can find truth in a multitude of locations, and you can find wisdom in a multitude of locations, but you have to keep looking. I think, Guruji, if I may, end this final question.
Yes.
Why is it that so many of us just stop looking or never look beyond a very narrow range?
That is unfortunate. That is why the question is that is what you get at home. From the very beginning, if the environment at home is open, that means children are always more evolved than parents if they are given chance. But if they have been colored from the very beginning, if their curriculum is such that it is saying, no, you are different, you have no right to mingle with anybody else, then that is his education. You are making a person. What is a person other than his or her education? So you have making a personality. It is not a flesh and bone and all. Flesh and bone is just a field, as I said. And we all know it. It is not that something prescription is there. So here in spirituality, there is no prescription at all. It is all description, description, and description. Unfortunately, in certain places, because as I say, if some considers outside, we can't comment, because it becomes beyond Maryada. So we have to keep that etiquette. At least we have to. So, and that way, if it is taught in the very beginning at home itself, that you are not like others, you are superior, holier than thou, as we call. You are better, you are different. In that sense, that no, these are not your brothers and your sisters until they certain way they comes and get some way which I don't want to name certain terms. So that way, that has to be there, that in the beginning only we are taught right values, that how it is, that you belong to all, there are no boundaries, like you breathe, anywhere you go, you are dependent on outside. If there is no fresh wind, you can't breathe. So where is the boundary of your being? If you look under higher sense, how can you say this is other, this is me in the higher sense? You can't. Then why are you creating such boundaries? Why are you creating such segregation? Why are you creating such ghettos with small identities? This is nowhere. If anybody who has gone to any religion, in the big sense, they will find the same grain. Only it is in the outer form, in the rituals, that it has gone haywire. And those who have not experienced, they are following that haywiredness of the religion. So that is what creating power. Those customs which they do not know what for they are doing, what is behind them, why they need to do certain things. So everything is changing, and we have to make it understand to people that you are not going away from your path by being real, by being truthful, what is necessary. So these has to be given in the very beginning, from the home. We say here in Sanatan Parampara, even before birth, Punsavan, that happens. Before that, how a child should come into the womb. Then later on, we have this. So we are inviting a soul, a pure soul, to take this human form and evolve. So that has to be openness, that we in the very beginning, we give this idea to them that see other divine and know thyself as one. Either you are one or none. So that oneness has to come, and that is what yoga is. So since the time is moving, I say on this yoga day, yoga means union. So we should all move towards that union, which is already there, only we have to experience it individually so that we become confirmed that this is the truth. That is, thou art that, tattvam asi. That is how it should be.
Absolutely. And as you correctly said, languages sometimes distort meanings. I mean, Karl Marx wrote Das Kapital in German. The German Arbeiter is very different from the English worker, very different in a substantive way. You're so right. And now, with your permission, Guruji, we'll open this for the question answer session. If there are individuals who would like to ask questions, I'm sure, Guruji, you would be able to reply to them.
Absolutely. Conversation has been insightful, interesting, engaging, enlightening, relevant. The dialogue has been like that smooth flow of streams full of wisdom and relevance. It has also inspired our audience to ask a few questions. There are a few, some from the audience, of course, for Guruji, and some for Professor. So the first question I give, this is addressed to Guruji. Religion has become the object of political exploitation for purposes that have nothing to do with soul realization. Religion is being used to not only bring people of the same religion together, but also to pit them against those from the other religions. How can this sorry state of affairs be corrected? This is a question given, Guruji. Could you address this?
Yeah. See, as we are saying, religion means different things to different people. For a saint sitting in seclusion, religion is entirely different. For a politician trying to gather his clientele or voters, religion is a different thing. For a person whose livelihood depends on the things related to religion, religion is a different thing. So it depends whose religion we are talking about. So best idea is to go to the root of the word. Everybody, when there is any problem in the democracy, this is an oft quoted saying that answer to the problems in the democracy is more democracy, not shutting out the democracy. So same way, if anything has come as a conflict, then go more deeper study and know it. So this can be solved very easily if people look for right person for the right answer. It is not that anybody who shouts on a television channel or through the columns of newspaper or in a spiritual gathering, religious gathering, becomes authority. Your heart should follow that here is the truth. That much you have to do the preparation. So it is about preparation your own self. We all as individual have to become worthy of clearing chaff from the grain. So when somebody is, you know that it is only the fluff that is coming, you will not be attractive. Next time that person being sane will not say such things. If you say, if you are saying some politician is doing that, or all politicians are doing that, that means they are finding that they'll get this way the voting. If you see, no, only on qualities I will vote, that much worthiness, that much quality, that much awareness, that much consciousness you have to create, that much fairness. You see, people do things when they know the other person is right, but still if you belong to X, if you consider yourself belonging to X religion, you are the person in Y religion is doing everything fine, but you say, no, I'll stick here. That means you are becoming irreligious. Karma is very fine thing to understand what is karma and what is a karma. When ahimsa become ahimsa, when ahimsa become hinsa, it's a finer thing. So go to the right person where you get clarity, because ultimately it is you, that means we all who have to exercise it, who have to make choices. So we should be clear. And then nobody can do anything in the name of religion or anything, nation or whatever. See, so truth seeker, we ourselves have to be. That's the solution.
Fair enough. As you said, clarity and awareness are the key words. Now, there is a question from the audience. Mr. Vivek wants to know, Professor, this is addressed to you. There was a comment made recently that India is union of states. It was made probably with questionable intentions, but could you analyze it from a neutral perspective?
Well, I'd like to say that in the way it was presented, it is actually not really understanding the contradiction between the word union and the way in which the of states was intended, which is basically anything but a union. The reality is that people may be different, but they have the fundamental characteristics are the same. Quite some time ago, many of the people in the audience may not have been around at that time. I wrote an op-ed in the Times of India about Hindutva. And I said that the DNA, the cultural DNA of every Indian is a compound of the Vedic, the Mughal, and the Western. All three are fused in us and fused in such a way that they cannot be disentangled. There was a very important politician about 20 years ago, and we had a nice long chat in his living room. And he was talking so much about, whatever, Western culture and some other cultures. And then I pointed out to him that your children are wearing Western dress. The food that you're consuming is from that particular culture that you say is the other culture. So you're also a fusion of these different cultures. So I think it's very important for us to understand that this fusion that is there is so important, and that this fusion is actually defines who we are as Indians. And I think that is what makes us very special as a people.
Yes, of course. Thank you for that, Professor. Now, Guruji, in continuation to the same track, there's a question that further goes, now with our own culture under attack, going forward, what would bind us together?
Yes. See, we are always together. The ones when we realize this, we call it Sanatan Bharat, eternal. So where from beyond eternity, we should not go below eternity. Because this is good for, see, wisdom works only when you find yourself eternal. Otherwise, it becomes fragmented. You can't see the whole. So we should not lower the guard. We should always maintain that, and that requires some sadhana. Because all kinds of situations come. Look, that is why we say that we have been there. People see from different disciplines, say for example, history, historians, they put a date. But in a spiritual field, we never put a date to any deity or to any country. We always say this is eternal, because that is truth. The consciousness is eternal. If you put any boundary, any timeline, you are bound to get confined and become a blind person. You have to keep it as it is. Eternity means here and now, and eternity means beyond beginning, beyond end. So these two things, and that is the reality, because we don't know anything other than this moment. That is how it will always be. It is only our mind that keeps playing this game. Otherwise, in this moment, suppose here and now my breathing stops. That was it. Over. So that is the moment. So this is going to be like that only. You are always in here and now. And that is your truth. And that is eternity also. So we say moment and eternity are two parts of the same coin. Now, if we remember that and we keep exploring that, because something, in spirituality, there is no teaching. It is all the learning. There is no teaching at all. What is whom we call Guru? What is a Guru? There is no person called Guru. It is, there is a flame. You go and you get lit there. So you also start missing out the same knowledge, that light. So this is how it is, because that is only one. So if something which binds it and has always been binding and will keep on binding is truth and truth alone. And our people understood that very well. We have written it in even in Constitution, Satyamev Jayate, the truth alone emerges victorious. So why this is so? Because we knew that only eternity is truth. Everything else about eternity is changing eternally. But eternity is only the truth. So all small truths, when we evolve, I say, yatha vidhi yathakram. If we are evolving right way, then what happens? Our small truths. Truth means you yourself. There is no other truth than you yourself all the time. So when your small truths evolves, then it merges with the bigger truth. You become bigger truth. Then again you become bigger. Then there is a much higher truth. So all the parallels story, if you see in Sanatan Parampara, you see this wisdom all the time there. That there is no conflict between the truths. All truths are evolving. And they merge seamlessly with one another. And when they merge, they become bigger truths. So through spirituality alone, India is known for spirituality because our unity is spiritual. Later only other things have been coming down from that. But our dhi, which we call, that is eternal. According to that only we are driven. If our dhi is not eternal, if we do not find it that, then we will not be in a position to accommodate all. Then we can't say, we loses the right to say Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So when we are uniting the whole world, how big a difficulty it is to keep united ourselves? It is not. Only thing is we have to have right education, very right education, very right curriculum and truthful without being biased and not being scared at all. What is truth has to be stated very firmly. Because that is what you, otherwise what is the point in saying I'm searching, I am seeker, I am looking for truth when you can't uphold it. So uphold as much as you know. And that is the way to the truth. So spirituality alone is the key binding factor. That we keep our spirituality alive, that means we keep our humanity alive, then we become meek, then we become accommodated, we become understanding. And then who is in the world who doesn't want to be happy and feel one with everybody else? Only those who are ignorant. So that we say that knowledge, through knowledge only, ignorance is dispelled. So this is how we can keep our unity alive. Always look for the truth, for the spiritual truth, and evolve.
Guruji, that was wonderful. You've demystified this concept very well. Professor Nalapat, the same thing. I take up the concept and I address the question to you that in current times when divisive politics is happening in the name of various identities like religion, nationhood, is it possible to evolve beyond these boundaries? How do you see it?
Well, I'd like to say that the important thing is to give hope and expectation of a better future. And as Guruji very correctly said, a better future is not where we fight each other, but when we work together for a prosperous nation, for a stable and peaceful nation. So I think what is important is that all of us should understand that we need to concentrate our efforts, our thinking in ways in which this kind of mutual progress and mutual self-help can take place. And I mean, because without that, you are going to have a situation in which opportunities are not enough. And when opportunities are not enough, what is going to happen? You're going to have individuals resorting to various undesirable activities. I mean, allow me to give you another example, which is of course far removed from the world, from the very enlightened world of Guruji. The question of youth in some of the states in India, where you have got birth rates that are still very, very high. Now, I have long had the view that we need to provide the discipline of training, National Cadet Corps, a Service Corps, the US used to call it a Peace Corps, and now you've got this Agnipath program. in my personal view, tens of millions of youth, once they are put into that discipline, even for 4 years, then they come out of it fundamentally different. And you have, for example, a country like, say, Cyprus or Israel, which has got compulsory military service. And, Israel and Cyprus are entirely different to each other. You see the pride in the country that takes place because of those 4 years in which your concentration is on ensuring that you serve your comrades, because you know that your life depends on your comrades. Your comrades' life depends on you. That brotherhood is so much there in that kind of training. So I would like to see 40, 50, 60 million Indian youths in that kind of training. And I'd like to see a decline in the kind of regulations. Unfortunately, we still have many colonial laws in this country. We still have many colonial prohibitions in the country. So before you do anything, you have to get this permission, that permission, X permission. Frankly, that should not be the case. The very Indian who does, who's not able to succeed in India in setting up and doing something new, he goes abroad and then he succeeds very well because it's a much freer atmosphere. Now, over the last 4 or 5 years, especially over the last 3 years, that atmosphere has been changing. That needs to change more. So I'd only like to point out the solution to that is to ensure that there are opportunities for development in ways that are not harmful. Otherwise, if you have unemployment, if you have inflation, if you have reduction in incomes, as unfortunately we have seen during that period in COVID, it's like tinder. It's like, dry grass. It's very easy to set it on fire. The only way that we can prevent that is to ensure that the economy takes off. And I think this particular government, especially in the last 2 or 3 years, has been working hard on that. And it's very important that it succeeds. It's not a question of a political party. It's not a question of a leader. Because, like it or not, our fate is tied up with the success of this government in ensuring economic growth. And therefore, I think it's important that we turn our attentions to those methods. And economic growth means that we all work together. Why is the Middle East, for example, prosperous? You have Hindus, Muslims, Christians, everybody working there. Technically it may be a country here or there or whatever. There may be attention paid to one particular faith, but everybody works there. In Singapore, everybody works there. In India, everybody works there. And what happens in a country where you have a different situation, like Pakistan or Afghanistan? Your progress is retarded. So I'd only like to say, I want to see much less regulation and many more opportunities for empowerment of the kind Guruji is talking about. And that is the best antidote to what we are seeing. For example, play out on the streets all across India because of misconceptions. And I would like to blame partly the government for that, for not communicating adequately enough the benefits of the scheme. But that has caused so much of problems, and that will scare so many investors away. Among those youths who rioted, there will be many who, if there were no riot, some investor would have come into India and set up something in which that youth would have got a job. And today that youth is going to be unemployed because he or she participated in activity that has driven away that investment.
That was the most relevant thing. And what you said made so much sense, Professor. I think there's so much of food for thought and worth introspection. Honestly, thank you so much for that. Now, since I'm just running out of time, I'll just pick up just 1 or 2 questions. Guruji, this one particular question has been addressed to you, that there have been repeated calls to keep politics and religion separate. Should spiritual leaders take up politics to clean the system?
No. This is not like this. We have to understand it better. Who is there in the world who is not spiritual? So this categorization doesn't work. And they do their work, those who are into sadhana. Their work is to keep their sadhana going on because the language changes. If a person who is in the field of spirituality start speaking in the field of religions, it will be different. If a person who is in the field of religions start speaking into politics, it will be different, because that is their aims are different. They are serving, all are serving, but they are serving according to their profession, or according to their calling, or according to their expertise, or according to their liking, according to their choice. So this kind of division doesn't work. There may be politicians who are highly spiritual, but they know the real politics, that is how it is working. So the answer to that is more education. That the one who elect leaders, when they become more aware that this talk I do not appreciate because ex-politician is talking about religion. For religion, I'll go to whom I consider religious if I have a religious query. You are here to address issues of the nation. How as a society, how as a nation we progress in the community of nations, how our chances of livelihood becomes better, how we live a qualitative life, civic issues. Those are the things which you are supposed to address. So it is lying at our end ultimately, that as a population of any nation, not our country alone, that it is happening all over the world. It is not, we are not only country who is seeing all this, but since we are people who love diversity, who are very fantastic with diverse ideas. In fact, we love diversity only. We do not like this categorization in one. We like as much diversity is there, that much we enjoy. We feel like it is a free field. It is as we call nature. Nature is diverse, and we call ourselves part of nature. So we also want to experience that diversity. So for us, that is not an issue. Our issue is, are we evolving in the right way? That we make our choices right way, that these are the choices meant for politicians, so they will automatically correct themselves, because they are, I say them in our close circle, I talk to my people and I say that the politicians are the next best spiritually evolved people, because they are very sensitive. They understand the reality, they understand the pulse at the ground. That is how they are rulers, that is how they are there. So there is nothing lacking in them. What is wanting is a level of education and awareness at the ground level. We have to fix our priorities for right kind of curriculum, right education, and law and order. Certain things which are civic issues, and we take them as these are religious issues or spiritual issues, they are not. So if the level of awareness goes, we start behaving well with each other, 99% of the problems will be solved. Just if we learn to behave well, we become proper civilians. Because we have that inbuilt resilience in this country, which has been coming from, unfathomable history. Itihas, we call it, we don't call it history. Ramayana and Mahabharata, as Madhav has mentioned, we call it history of the human heart because of the language, because we are speaking in English. So I say history of human heart. It is not in time and space. That is the role of historian and historiographers to figure out. It is not the work of a spiritual person. They have to see what they have seen. They have to manifest that. Yes, human values, divine values, these are their terms. So if we evolve all the democracies, those who are in the democracy electing people, if their awareness level goes up, the politician will correct themselves very well, they know. And that is how it happens. So long as we are not taking that, we are driven by weaknesses, then that's the nature of power. Whatever brings them to power, they'll do. Because they are there for making, for their welfare, but through power. So power is their compulsion. So whatever way they are feeling, that those things they'll do. But if you make them go towards necessities, then they will change within no time. Yes, it will require some resistance, some sacrifice, because for values, when you uphold, you have to sacrifice certain things. Any nations, when nation building happens, it happens with toil and with so much concern for it. And that is how it happens. So this is not the solution that one set of people replace another set of people, that will not make any change, because change is for all. Everybody has to change, then only the quality changes. It's not about people. Yes, it helps. It's by luck or by good fortune. Some good person comes and sits in a chair, which makes decision. Then it is our good fortune. We should make best use of that and evolve as democrats.
Thank you so much for that, Guruji. Well, the past 90 minutes has been so meaningful, insightful, that we feel ye dil mange more. But in the eternal flow of time, there has to be a pause till we connect again. Hindi mein ise alpaviram kehte hain. Quest shall go on. So shall our Upanishad series with more relevant topics. For today's special episode, on behalf of Darpan Foundation, we'd like to thank each one of you. Thank you, Guruji. Thank you, Madhavji, for this wonderful, enriching Upanishad. The power of expression and clarity of communication was immense. We hope we were able to take up all the questions from the audience. In any case, some of you would like to ask any question. You could address your questions. Please send them to email ID info@darpanfoundation.com. For more details about Darpan Foundation, please visit the social media links shared on screen. Stay safe. Take care. Namaste and good night. Shubh Ratri. Thank you.
Very here.
Namaskar.